Welcome to our video tutorial here on evaluating sine, cosine, possibly even tangent values using sum and difference or double or half angle identities. So the first problem that we're going to look at here is the cosine of 7 pi over 12. Now hopefully we remember our sum and difference identities, and here is the sum and difference of cosine pictured on the screen. So what we would want to do is find a way to write 7 pi over 12 in terms of a sum or a difference of other angles that we know on the unit circle. Perhaps pi over 3 plus pi over 4 would work. If we think about that, a common denominator would be 12. On the left we would have 4 twelfths. On the right we would have 3 twelfths, and 4 plus 3 is 7. So this would work. And now we'll use our identity that this would be the cosine of pi over 3 times the cosine of pi over 4, opposite sign with cosine. So minus sine of pi over 3 times the sine of pi over 4. And yes, you really should have parentheses in each of these items, so we'll put parentheses in as we're going. Cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. Cosine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. Sine of pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2, and sine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. Simplifying this, notice that each of them is going to have a 4 in the denominator. It looks like we have radical 2 minus radical 6 over 4. As we have said, if there are no simplifications, that would be fine. However, it's probably nicer to write it in this format so that if there is a simplification, we can handle that along the way. So we have evaluated the cosine of 7 pi over 12. Next, we are going to evaluate the cosine of 7 pi over 12 because we can now maybe write this in a different way just to show that we get the same answer. So again, we keep our identity in mind, and as we do this, what if we took 4 pi over 3 and subtracted 3 pi over 4? Again, our common denominator would be 12. Over here we would have 16 pi over 12. Over here we would have 9 pi over 12. 16 minus 9 is 7, so that works well. This would be the cosine of 4 pi over 3 times the cosine of 3 pi over 4 plus, remember with cosine it's the opposite sign, sine of 4 pi over 3 and sine of 3 pi over 4. So as we plug things in, this is going to be a negative 1/2 times square root of 2 over 2. That would be a negative square root of 2 over 2 actually. Plus negative radical 3 over 2 times positive radical 2 over 2. And this turns out to be radical 2 over 4 minus radical 6 over 4, which really is the exact same thing that we got with the previous arrangement. So on a test, it wouldn't matter if you looked at it as 7 pi over 12 being the sum of two angles like we had initially, or 7 pi over 4 being or 7 pi over 12 being the difference of two angles like we had this time. One more problem that we're going to consider, and it's the same problem. Because we might think, well, what if we looked at this as the cosine of 7 pi over 6 all divided by 2? In other words, what if we looked at it from the half angle identity perspective? Well, let's not forget our half angle identity. We see it pictured up on the screen. So this is going to be either plus or minus, it can't be both, square root of 1 plus cosine of 7 pi over 6 all divided by 2. Well, is it going to be the positive or the negative? Let's consider. So in the case of 7 pi over 12, that's going to be bigger than pi over 2, which means that this is going to be in the second quadrant, which means that we're going to go with the negative option. So this will be the negative square root of 1 plus cosine of 7 pi over 6. That would be a negative square root of 3 all over 2. We've got this divided by 2. Now we have to simplify a little bit. So this is going to be negative square root of, this becomes 2 over 2 minus square root of 3 over 2. We could drop those into a denominator of 4. So again, it's like getting a common numerator up in the top, 2 minus square root of 3 all over 2, and then dropping that into a single fraction in the next step. So we could have this written, and we would have this written in the following way to take the square root of 4. Now what's interesting is this is the same problem we had before. So are these two expressions equal? Well, let's go to our calculator really quick, and they should check if we've done everything correctly. So as we get our calculator into play here, first of all, let's just type in cosine of 7 pi over 12, making sure that we're going to be accurate in all of these things. In radian mode, there we go, it is going to be a negative number. Let's type this answer right here, negative square root of 2 minus radical 3 divided by 2. Ah, look at that, they're spot on. And how about that previous answer we had? I believe it was radical 2 all over 4 minus radical 6 all over 4. Interesting. All of those forms are equivalent, and any of them would be acceptable, unless specific instructions were given otherwise on any exam or assignment. So really these aren't bad. The key thing is going to be taking the input and figuring out how we can write it in terms of a sum and difference or half angle identity.